Just yesterday, Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack visited the YOLO Food Bank in West Sacramento to announce a new program that he hopes will bring fresh food from small California farms to those who need it the most. Vilsack's visit shined a positive light on the food bank's work to feed local families. His stop also followed weeks of questions about the food bank's leadership, including the recent appointment of an interim executive director. Thanks for joining us for Fox 40 News at 5:30. I'm Eric Carryman.
And I'm Nikki Lorenzo. The organization serves 25,000 people each month, distributing to many partners, including food pantries, senior meal programs, and colleges. Despite all that outreach, the nonprofit recently made headlines for the firing of its previous executive director, the resignations of staff members, and an investigation of board members by a law firm. So the termination of Michael Bish in May created concern about the food bank's ability to keep its promises.
The current management says that there will be no effect on services going forward. Tonight, Fox 40's Sincere Tonsel explains what some claim was going on behind the scenes.
And I received a text message announcing that I'd been fired.
Michael Bish was shocked when he received that text on May 31st, an end to his behind-the-scenes battle for control over the direction of YOLO Food Bank. Under his leadership, Bish and the nonprofit won numerous awards, including Executive Director of the Year, Business of the Year, Nonprofit of the Year, Civic Leadership for the Community Award, biggest big day of giving fundraising totals in business history, the kind of success that ordinarily leads to job security. But board members of the food bank also tried to fire him during a meeting just weeks earlier.
Liz Schmitz, Dan Ramos, and Jim Durst.
Reading a termination letter off their phones, he claims, but staff members who supported Bish disagreed with critiques of his performance, convincing board members to back off. Then came that fateful text message. The board also terminating the services of a law firm hired to investigate allegations against themselves.
And he said, well, wait a minute, I just got an email from some of the board members. And he goes, oh, well, it looks like this is going to be the last conversation you and I ever have, Michael. I've just been fired too.
You called the law firm that works with the food bank to report what had happened. In the middle, the lawyer you're speaking to says, oh, wait, I'm getting an email from the food bank and they've been fired. What went through your mind?
I was thinking this is outrageous. I mean, I'm at a complete loss for words of this complete meltdown in board governance when it comes to YOLO Food Bank. But what's super clear is that all of this is retaliatory.
The firing of Bish and YOLO Food Bank's program director Zane Hatfield came just after 3 members of his executive team filed letters of no confidence against board directors, alleging mismanagement, ethical lapses, and harassment. Harassment some feel was evident in the language and tone taken by board chair Tom Muller during the director's April meeting.
And you just 2 weeks of board support for you two guys.
Of the investigations of board behavior requested by employees, law firm Bowman & Associates had only completed 1. They'd found complaints against board chair Tom Muller to be valid.
It's unbelievable. And, I'm not sure what the path forward is.
What Bish is sure about is that a growing number of families in need and the donors who can help them should take a close look at the actions of the YOLO Food Bank's board of directors. He claims some board members had resigned, leaving too few members to make a quorum, meaning they had no ability to fire him without enough people to make decisions or take action.
So the board members who had termed off were in effect removed from the board, so they were not involved in the decision related to the executive director position. They didn't resign. They just, it was discovered that their terms had ended.
Gene Endicott was brought in by the food bank to handle questions about what happened with Bish and Hatfield. No board members would speak to Fox 40 News about the firings, directing us to Endicott.
Isn't it true, though, that with those people being removed, there were not enough board members to constitute a quorum to carry on board business, and then board elections were delayed?
No, that is not true. There was a sufficient number of directors under the organization's bylaws to take the action that it did.
Whatever the makeup of the board at the time of Bish's firing, Endicott can't say why they did what they did.
This is a personnel matter, and because of that, we cannot talk about the specifics related to the decision the board made.
One thing Gene Endicott did want to stress, that there would be no change in support for the 25,000 people who turn to the YOLO Food Bank for help each month.
No, nothing has changed. The work is continuing, the programs are continuing, and the commitment is as strong as it's ever been to make sure that the organization is serving as many people as it can.
Bish is skeptical.
Bottom line, none of this is leading to more people being fed higher quality food.
And that's supposed to be the name of the game.
Yep.
And that's what has you on the edge of tears right now.
Yep.
In our next report on the transition at YOLO Food Bank, a look at Michael Bish's claims that his firing was really motivated by his efforts to get cities in YOLO County and the county itself to accept his vision of compliance with a new state law about usable food recovery. Eric?
Sincere, thank you.